Welcome to Godot Community for High School Visual Art 3D. The exploration of clay surfaces is continued in this session with the demonstration of two different processes. The first shows what I call the burnt wrapping paper technique, and the second is underglaze with bubbles. Both techniques are relatively inexpensive and a departure from the everyday. I hope you enjoy.
The technique that I'm going to show you in this video, I just refer to as the wrapping paper technique. I learned it from a gentleman who had a GAEA workshop a few years ago, and there's another Southern folk potter in North Georgia that uses this technique almost exclusively on his work. It's great for a couple of reasons. The first being that it's super simple and easy. Secondly, it's very inexpensive. And lastly, it's got that instant gratification that students love. I would say that this is a good technique with supervision, would be good for beginner pottery students or ceramic students. Or just if you have, sometimes our students get tired of the same old glaze. So this is something that can be done that is a little bit different. The process is not food safe, and the surface is not super durable in the sense that you don't want to wash it. You can seal it. However, I feel like sealing it sometimes takes away a little bit of the depth. So we're going to start with a piece of bisqueware, and you want to make sure that it is fairly smooth. You don't want to do this with something that has a lot of texture. And I have some blue wrapping paper. I would suggest if you can find solid wrapping paper, that is what you want to use. I could only find this snowflake print, and the snowflakes will actually show up on the wear after it's burned off. And then you just want to wrap the paper around the work, and you kind of want to get it close to the sides of the form, and I'm just tucking it in. I would not use any kind of adhesive to get this to adhere to the side of the form, because that's going to burn and create black or brown marks likely. So we are just going to wrap this, and then now we're ready to take it outside. For the next step in the process, you're going to need a few things. You're going to want a nice heat-resistant glove. You're going to want a little propane burner. You can get these at any home improvement store. And I like to use a metal banding wheel. It just allows me to move the form around instead of me having to move around the form. So let's get this butane working. Sometimes easier said than done. Please stand by for my technical difficulties. I have an automatic switch, but it's not working. So I'm having to light it with a match. All right, there we go. So once I have the propane, I'm going to put my glove on my hand that I'm going to use to turn the banding wheel. And you're just going to start burning this paper. And I can already see that with the curvature of the form, where the paper is not right up against the work, it's not taking the blue from the wrapping paper as well as it is at the bottom. And incidentally, when I took this workshop, naturally several people asked, how other colors worked. And the gentleman said that for some reason it seems that only the blue paper really works for this process. And I'm really making sure that I'm burning all of the paper. So I am getting some nice patterns. Okay, so obviously it's a little warm at this point, so you don't want to pick it up with your bare hand. Oh, here you can really see the snowflake print from the paper. So even though the color did not attach to the entire piece, I think it's nice that it's just in these patches, and there's some pretty vibrant blue happening, so that's really lovely. So that is wrapping paper. Now I may or may not seal it. Another thing that I didn't mention is that you can, if you have a low fire glaze, like a stroke and coat or something that will not go higher than your bisque temperature, you could have glazed the interior first, and I've done that before. And if you want to have something other than just the blue. For the underglaze with bubbles technique, you are going to need a few things. You're going to need some water, soap, underglaze, preferably a darker color that works best, a tablespoon, a straw. I actually have 2 straws that I attach together. It just makes maneuvering around the artwork a little bit better or easier. And you're going to need a cup to mix everything in. I like to use this cup with a handle so that I can hold on to it more easily as I'm blowing my bubbles, because sometimes when I multitask holding something and blowing bubbles, things can get messy. So I try to make it easiest on myself. And then just a clean plastic bin. So the recipe is 3 spoons of water, 3 squirts of soap, and 1 spoonful of your underglaze. And I'm just going to get this all nice and mixed together. It's pretty well mixed, so I'm going to get my bin. Have just a bisqueware bowl that I had in the studio that I'm going to use. And I'm placing the bowl face down And as I'm blowing the bubbles, I want to make sure that the bubbles are starting to collect at the base or near the bottom of the form. And then I'm going to let the bubbles sort of build up the sides of the form. If you start by having the bubbles fall on the top, then they have a tendency to slide down the side of the form, and you just get less of the bubble effect. And since this is bisqueware, this underglaze is going to dry really quickly. So start to see some of that lovely bubble pattern. So I'm going to flip it over so that we can get the inside. You see some nice bubble patterns on the inside as well now. And underglaze, we know, is not cheap, but I think that the effect is really nice. I think, again, for students who are wanting to be a little bit more adventurous and are tired of just the regular glazing that most of us are doing most of the time in our rooms, this is a good project, especially to take something that maybe isn't super textural and amp it up a little bit. Any of the underglaze soap mixture that you have left in your bin, you can pour back in your cup and reuse. So that is bubble with underglaze. I'll bisque fire this, then I'll dust it off because you can see that there is actually a little bit of residue from the soap. And then I will apply a clear glaze.
Thank you. And as always, I hope this information was useful and something that you can use in your own classroom.